All right, welcome to the show. My guest today is Daniel Demsky. Now, Daniel's a Toronto-based entrepreneur with an impressive track record. 11 years ago, he started his first business from his mum's basement, and since then he's founded a six-figure company, two seven-figure businesses, and was partner in an eight-figure business. He was able to raise $370,000 from a crowdfunding campaign for his latest business, and he grew it to seven figures within the first year. His latest business is Unbound Merino, which is a clothing brand providing stylish, simple merino wool apparel that can be worn for weeks or even months without ever needing to be washed, which is perfect for traveling. I want to bring Daniel on the show to find out what he's learned from building multiple businesses over the past decade, how he's been able to consistently succeed in his ventures, and probably the most important part, I want to find out whether he actually wore the same t-shirt for 46 days in a row without washing it when he was testing materials for his clothing line. So, Daniel, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me, man.
My pleasure. So, I thought an interesting place to start would be a bit of your background and your story, because it seems like you were always somewhat entrepreneurial. So, could you talk a bit about your first business venture that you had, which was actually during high school?
Well, it was just after high school, I started doing video production. And, we felt like the world was our oyster, my business partner and I, who was my best friend since junior and kindergarten. And we didn't really know what we wanted to do. He was in film school and I was in radio broadcasting school, and I was already interning in a radio station and had a job doing evenings and weekend producing, helping put together the shows for a talk radio station. And we just had a bunch of side hustles, and video was one of them. We wanted to make a documentary about the community center in the area we lived, which was just like to us, it was the funniest place in the world. If we ever ended up making that documentary, it maybe would not be that funny to the average person, but to us, it was the greatest idea in the world. So we went around looking for grants to start this documentary, and we landed a $5,000 grant, which was enough to buy a camera. And we got this camera, and then we said, okay, well, we're out of money. We need to make more money. So we started doing freelance video gigs. We'd look online on Craigslist, looking for a job where we get paid $200 to show up with a camera and shoot. And we started shooting on other people's documentaries, and we just kept at that. We were so thrilled that someone would give us $150, $200, sometimes $500 to do these projects. And sometimes we'd spend days and days and days. And if you calculated the amount of hours that we'd work to make a few $100, we'd probably working for $3 an hour. But it was such a rush for us because it wasn't really about making money. It was just, we were really excited about filmmaking and using the camera. And every time we made a few $100, we didn't go and spend that on ourselves or pocket it. It would be to buy a microphone or another light for the camera. And I never really thought it would be a business until someone said, hey, you guys are so good and so passionate and so reliable, because we really cared about what we delivered. Why don't I get you some clients, or you can make some more money? You can give me a cut. No. Okay. So our first corporate client we got was GE, General Electric. And we made, I think, around $3,000, which was more than we were used to making. But it only took us 2 hours or something. Like, it was like 2 or 3 hours. And we're used to working for like days and days and days to make a few $100. All of a sudden, we made a few $1,000 for the easiest thing we've ever done. And we were just like, damn, there must be more of this out there. So we registered our business for that project. Like, we couldn't go in, we were used to getting envelopes with cash. So that was the start of our business. It was just, we needed to have a business to be able to invoice GE. And because of that project, we started taking it seriously. And that was our first business. And it just grew really fast. So I guess I sort of fell into it. I've never had a career like after school. I never even finished school. I just got consumed with this video production agency we started, and we built it, and it went from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's cool how you had that moment where you saw that you made a few $1,000s in a few hours, and that you really saw the potential of what this could become, and it kind of just grew from there from your mum's basement, I believe. So, and then you were working with massive brands in the end, like you were working with Coca-Cola, Microsoft, GE, as you said, and some agencies as well. So yeah, it really seemed like it blew up. So that was cool, and that was Biz Media, your agency, and so you're doing well with that. So you got it to over 7 figures, but then you actually decided to start a sock business on the side. So can you talk about what was the thinking behind that? You were already doing well with this agency, so why the sock business?
Um, there came a time. So when we started Biz Media, this was back in 2008. We were, I think, what separated us from the herd. There was a lot of people that were doing commercial videography or corporate video, and just think of these are the ways that they were positioning themselves. Uh, in online video was not a really big deal then. And we positioned ourselves, and what we believed in was online video, digital video content. So it was the thinking behind it, the strategy behind it, and then the production. And it's focused on helping companies make their own YouTube pages or have native video content in their websites, or to utilize social media and more of that thinking, which is just like table stakes today. It was seen or as a risk or a disadvantage to be focused on that, because there's no budget for this digital video stuff back then. But we really believed in it, and we were preaching that this is the future and this is the way to go. And I think that is what led us to being successful, like rather quick. And it differentiated us. So it was really exciting, and it was fun to go in and feel like we were in teaching people about a new way and sort of leading the path at least in our own city. And it was just so exciting. But as the years progressed, more and more companies got into the space, and it really was I just lost my passion for it. So our clients got way bigger, and I would think back, if I knew how some of the contracts I would be getting, I'd be so excited if I could think, like, wow, we're working with these brands, and we're doing, we were in talks with Coca-Cola, doing stuff with our Major League Baseball team here, and I'm like, this is like a dream. I couldn't see myself being happier. But after years and years and years, and people that became our clients started to have their own opinions on how things should be, and to be blunt, I freaking hated it. I'd get an email with an amazing opportunity with a huge brand, and I felt, oh God, okay, let's go into the pitch mode. Let's put together a proposal. And I just didn't like it anymore. And the problem with that is, if you're not passionate about it, especially in a service business, you're not excited to go and do those, multiple pitches every day, which is what's needed to keep like the revenue growing and to keep the business growing. If it becomes a drag, then you're not going to put your all into it. And doing those pitches it just was a drag to me, and I wasn't excited to do it. And if you aren't excited to do it, you're not going to put in the amount of time that's necessary. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to switch to a product, whatever that product might be, because it's a different model. It's a different scale. I could have, instead of having clients who make me miserable and make me want to kill myself every time I do a pitch, I can't go to a client and be like, hey, we obviously we have a difference in opinion. Here's a full refund. Go on our separate ways. Because if I did that, the business would suffer to the point where I wouldn't be able to eat dinner. But with customers, we could find our ideal customer, and sometimes they are annoying, and it's okay, because I can always just say, hey, you know what? Here's a full refund. I'm sorry you felt that way. You can enjoy don't have to return the stuff. I just feel like I don't have to deal with these people. I was just attracted to that. I wanted to do something new. So how I got into socks, I fell into it. My buddy came from Vancouver to Toronto looking to start something new. He wanted to start a sock business. I was looking for something to teach me, how do I get into a more e-commerce centric business. I said, hey, let us help you. We'll do videos for you. We're not going to charge you. I'm here to support you, mentor you, anything you need. And he ended up being my partner. But I got so excited about it that I took the vision to a completely different direction that he didn't like. And he's like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. So he left me with the business. So I was left with a stock business, and it was a complete side project. And I was now in a place where I was juggling biz media, a business which it's still going, it's going strong today, but I'm no longer a part of it, and it's probably better without me. I had that business, I had a sock business, and I was juggling both. And it wasn't until a couple years later that Unbound Merino came in the picture.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to get into Unbound Merino in a sec. With the sock business, I'm curious because when I was doing a bit of research on you, it seems like there was a few big lessons or big challenges that you faced with that business. Could you quickly just talk about the cease and desist you got after about a year into the business and sort of how you overcame that challenge?
Oh, wow. You really did research. Yeah. So we started the business. We had the name Huely. Yeah, because we got Huely.com, Huely, which we liked because it was like hues, like colors, or there were colorful socks. And things were just going well. Like, it was a good part. Like, that business, we never, like, it was my smallest business, but we had a pretty good stride going right from the beginning. Great PR, and people were writing about us. So we're selling a lot mostly within Canada, and I guess the exposure was good for the sales, but somehow this company got a hold of it, and they sent us a cease and desist. Like, who the hell are these guys? They make a product called Hue, Hue, which is women's like pantyhose, and it's sold in department stores. I think, well, screw these guys. Like, I'm just gonna ignore this. But then, another letter came, so I looked more into who they were. I forgot the name of the parent company that owns Hue, but they also own brands like Calvin Klein and other massive brands. So I'm just like, am I gonna try to get in a trademark battle with a company that has a legal department that they pay more than our yearly? They pay more per year to the lawyers just in our city than our company makes in revenue in a year. So it felt pretty hopeless. I tried to get them to compensate us, as weird as it was, because we just invested so much money in packaging and marketing collateral and all this stuff. It was such a bad hit for us, and they basically laughed and said no. But they ended up giving us $1,000, which I took because I'm just like, well, what else? It's that, or I'm going to go to court. So I ended up getting $1,000, and then we had to rebrand the whole company, which was it was tough. It was just like, I think we weren't allowed to use the packaging we had anymore, and we had just like massive amounts of packaging. We had to take everything out and repackage it. It was a whole ordeal.
Yeah, that probably the worst sort of nightmare that you could have, really.
Yeah,
with the business.
I think the principle of it stung me a bit, because I'm just like, we're a little startup company, like we don't even sell the same stuff. We sell like socks designed, like they were men's socks designed by street artists on e-commerce, and that was it. We're doing a bit of retail too, but they were like in skateboard stores and stuff like that. And the thing about trademarks is, can this be confused with the other product? And I'm like, we're not going to be confused with women's pantyhose. So I was pissed, and I tried to fight it and make that company rack up as many legal fees as they could by dragging it out, and I was being vindictive. But at the end of the day, I had no chance of winning that battle, and it was just any fight was more just for sport and fun.
I like that. So I guess you probably would take that lesson forward to your next businesses in terms
Absolutely. When we started Unbound Merino, the first thing I did was do trademark searches, because it's just like, if this thing works, I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to go through a rebrand, and I know how much it can derail things. So it was a very, very important thing that we made sure we could first secure those trademarks. This is stuff I usually don't worry about. Like I would, when I started a business, I think so many people, a lot of people I know, they'll start a business. They're like, okay, well, we need to make sure we get, you want to get your domain, you want to get your social media test. Sure, that's fine. It doesn't take a lot of time, but then it's like, okay, well, we need to have a very solid brand, and we need business cards, and we need letter. Like, you don't need anything. What you need to do is get out there and get revenue. You need to sell your product, sell your service. Having a brand name's fine. Having your social media handle is fine, and your web URL is fine. But I always felt like this is all noise. So that was a mistake, because I'm glad I learned that with Hewley socks, which became Hitsu socks. I'm glad I learned that, because you do kind of need to cover your bases first. And if I didn't learn that lesson with Hewley socks, I don't know if I would have been as aggressive with getting the name Unbound right away. And that would be way, way worse if I had a trademark issue for this business. So I also learned to think like, get a little bit more prepared. You don't have to, shoot at the seat of your pants for everything, but it's a balance, because I also think you don't need to obsess over the details when you're starting a business. You just need to get out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good point as well, saying that it's a balance, because there's the one extreme of not doing anything and just firing from the hip, as you said, but then there's the other extreme of making sure you got your business cards and your letterheads and all that kind of stuff. So it's somewhere in the middle is where
which is a nice distraction from getting out there and actually going to do what you set out to do. If you're starting a business where you're painting houses or something, you want to get out there and get your phone ringing, get emails coming in to send out quotes and get some jobs. You're sitting there worrying about setting up and how you look and your brand. It's like you just sit there and you're wasting time and money. At the end of the day, it's like word of mouth, product, your service, they should speak for themselves, get out. So I was on one complete end of the spectrum of like, none of this matters, just go and sell. And now I'm just like, I've been bit in the ass. So, step a little bit in the other direction.
Yeah. I think most people are on the opposite end of the spectrum to you. So in terms of over preparing. So I think you're absolutely right there. Well, I'm curious let's talk about Unbound Merino, which is your latest business. So what is Unbound Merino, and how did that idea come about?
So we are a merino wool apparel company. We sell mostly men's clothing, but we're just starting with women as well. And it's clothing that helps you travel further, packing lighter. So it's merino wool, it's antibacterial, odor resistant, and basically, because you can wear it multiple times, seeing as though it's odor resistant, antibacterial, and all that, you don't need to wash it between every wear. So if you're traveling somewhere far, instead of packing 14 t-shirts, maybe you can get away with just 2 or 3, and that should provide you enough versatility without filling up a lot of bag space. So I've traveled for over a month with just 2 t-shirts. I have a lighter gray shirt, which I'll wear during the day, and a black v-neck, which I can wear at night. I can dress it up with some nicer pants if I want, because a t-shirt can look fine. That's basically the idea of the business. Cool. We started with just t-shirts, socks, and underwear, and now we have hoodies. We're coming out with another sweater. We're coming out with button-up shirts, slowly expanding the line, but it's started with a crowdfunding campaign, and it's now 2 years in and going really well.
That's awesome. Could you maybe tell the story of how you got the idea? Like, where did the idea for this originally the t-shirt?
I was going to an entrepreneurs conference in Athens, Greece, and I brought my wife with. At the time, she was my girlfriend. We weren't married or engaged, and we were stopping to see some friends in London, England, on the way. So we were going to London, then we were going to Athens, then we had a weekend trip to a little city called Hydra, which is just outside of Athens, and then back to Athens and home. So we had one fancy dinner we needed to be at. We were going to go out with our friends in London. And then we're going to this beautiful coastal city, Hydra. And of course, my wife, it wasn't me. I was already packing light just by nature of who I am. My wife, on the other hand, had, I needed this dress, and I need this, and I need this, and this, and this, and this. So we had a huge suitcase, like this massive suitcase And I'd haul it around from the hotel and into the cabs and whatever. And it's a bit annoying, but it was fine. But when we got to Hydra, Greece, and this is a town, it's right on a hill, and there's no roads, right? So there's like pathways that go up to the hotels. And the only way to get up is to walk up these steep steps, hauling your own stuff, or you could pay a guy they have donkeys, and you can like put it on a donkey, and a donkey will carry it up. And I'm like, I'm not paying no donkey, or I'll carry these bags. So I had my like medium suitcase, and I had her massive bag, and obviously she's not carrying either, because it's like this steep like stone steps all the way up to our hotel. And by the time I got up to the hotel, I was just gassed and like oh, this is so ridiculous how much stuff you have. Like, we're here for 8 days or whatever. I guess it's a joke. And then she opens up her suitcase, and I realized, you're not wearing 2/3 of the stuff in here. Like, this is insane. Like, you can't do, like, it just makes everything worse. Like, stop doing this. I said, and so I made a pact with her that next time we travel, no matter where it is, no matter how long, we're doing carry-ons. However, we'll make that work. Like, we'll do laundry. I don't know. We're going to figure it out. Turns out our next trip was our honeymoon, because we ended up getting engaged. We got hitched in Las Vegas. We're now married. We're planning a honeymoon. And where did we go? We went to Croatia, Montenegro, and Italy. And we were gone for almost a month, I think. And I didn't forget. And I said, okay, we're doing carry-on. That's the deal. And she still agreed. Like, okay, we'll figure it out. So I started Googling, how do you travel long distances with just a carry-on? And that's when I discovered merino wool. Someone said, well, what I do is I use merino wool t-shirts, because for the same reason. This is basically what our brand is built on. Now, that's incredible. Now, where I'm sitting right now, I'm at home in the downstairs of my condo. On the other side of King Street, where I live, there's 3 stores, which are, if you're going to go anywhere in Canada to get good merino wool apparel, they're all right next to me just by chance. So I went to the first place, they had nothing in stock. The second place, they discontinued selling merino wool for the time. And the third place, they had some, I ended up getting, but I had to pick through a lot of stuff. And when I got it, it was fine. The clothing was fine, the material was fine, but it was made for people who are using it as outdoors wear or athletic wear. And it looked as such. So it had an athletic look, it had athletic logos on it. It was super expensive. The whole experience was just garbage. So I started going online, and I couldn't find much better. Now, there was some stuff, few and far between, but I just didn't understand, like, why is it that there is this unbelievable material, but they don't make stuff for someone who wants to go out and have a cocktail with his wife on his honeymoon? You know, like, I want to go out and I want to pack light, but I still want to be able to look okay. Now, I'm not a fashionista guy. I like having like nice stuff, but I don't care about brand name clothing. I don't care about like, this is in style. I was looking at a conference yesterday for technical apparel, and they had a keynote from someone who's a color trend person, and the talk. And this just happened in Munich, Germany, like last week. This keynote, and she was talking about the trend colors for the year 2022, and like, what are these people talking about, right? Like this is crazy. Like, they're dictating what color will be in style in a couple of years from now, and people will just follow suit. That's bananas to me. I don't care for that. I don't care to make a business around that. For me, it's just like, give me a nice black t-shirt that fits nice, that looks nice, that feels nice. That's good enough for me. I don't want flashy logos on it. I couldn't find this for the life of me in merino wool. And I kept looking. And this is when the idea started brewing in my head. I'm like, because I thought, I hate biz media, my business. I couldn't stand doing it, but it was, this is how I paid my bills, and I ate dinners. That's where I got my salary. Hitsu Socks had a little bit of traction, but I wasn't even taking a salary from me yet. And I really needed to put a lot of attention into both businesses. But now all of a sudden I have this third idea where I'm thinking, I've heard of so many great businesses that start when someone has an experience where they weren't satisfied with what was available, and they said, I'm going to make it. And I felt like I'm here. Like, I do not like what's out there. Like, I want to make it for me. And I was talking at the time to a business coach. He wasn't working with us. He's like super expensive, but I connected him with a few people who he ended up working with, and he became a friend. And I would get on the phone with him and explain, like, he's like a business shrink for me. I'd tell him things that are going great, things that are going bad, and he would just talk me through things. So I had this whole pitch about I didn't have the name Unbound, about starting this merino wool apparel business, and this is why I think we should do it, and this is what we could do, blah blah blah. And I explained the whole thing to the best of my ability, and he said, "Dan, that is a fantastic idea. I love it." And I'm like walking my dog. I have my headphones in like I do now. I was just like, like if he sees it, gold. And then he says, "But you can't do it." I went, "Huh?" And he's like, you're splitting yourself way too thin already. Like, you have to focus on your sock business and on your video business. Like, you can't. Like, you're already suffering from splitting your time on both. You can't add a third thing, or you're just going to fail at everything. So it was the most discouraging thing, and it's like, you're probably right. And I kind of thought like maybe he's right. Maybe I really need to reevaluate and really focus on what matters and get this thing going. But I wasn't sleeping, and I'm a sleeper. Like, I can hit the pillow, I'm out cold. But there was like a few days where I was just up thinking like, no, like this is it. And the thing that made me made it so that I couldn't get this out of my head was knowing friends of mine who started very successful businesses. Like, I know guys who we grew up in like a not very, like, kind of poor area. I know guys who grew up broke, started massive multi-million-dollar businesses. And the thing that was the constant through a few of these companies I was thinking through was they had this idea early when the market needed their approach to it. It was very early. And this was the problem with my sock business, because everyone and their uncle was wearing funky socks already, and we came in. It wasn't like well thought out and well timed. So we were competing against tons and tons of businesses that already existed before us and that were starting to come into the market at the same time as us. So how are we going to stand out? So I became obsessed with the fact that this is my time. This is the time to launch it because we can do it different. We can do it different. So we decided to do crowdfunding because I felt like that was the way to go to start this thing. And if it doesn't work, we can walk away unscathed. If we can put together a campaign, we can pitch the idea to the best of our abilities. It'll give us time to source manufacturers, make prototypes, and not put in a lot of money, which I couldn't afford to do at the time. If it didn't work out, we'd lose I think we ended up investing. It cost us maybe $2,000 to start the whole business up until the crowdfunding campaign. That's getting samples, that's getting some help with some development, some design assets, photography, et cetera, et cetera. I could afford to do that, no problem. I just decided against my own better judgment, against what the words of the business coach said. Just go and do it. Do the crowdfunding campaign. Work on it on Friday nights only, starting at 8 p.m. until 3 a.m. And we did that for a full year. And I'm going to launch this campaign. If it works, figure out what to do from there. If it doesn't, I'll get back to business as usual. And it worked. So
I love it. And I definitely want to talk about the details of that in a sec. But I think it's worth highlighting those points, kind of the main points I took from that, which is that you were your customer for this business. So you were kind of scratching your own itch, it sounds like. So you were trying to find this t-shirt or this clothing item. You couldn't find it. The ones you did find weren't exactly what you wanted. So the fact that you were the customer really sounds like it really helped, because then you know what the product should look like and who it should be for, because it's for you, so you know. And then timing as well, talking about how important timing is. I think that's a good point, because like you said, with the sock business, Funky Socks had already kind of taken off and you were kind of competing against all them, but this was more blank space that you could fill. And so when starting a business, it sounds like timing is also a massive factor. So I think those are kind of...
I look at a lot of these entrepreneur Instagram accounts like Gary Vaynerchuk and stuff, and like this, he has so much good advice, and there's so many people that have such good perspective on so many of these things. But timing is a topic that I don't really see often, and it's very important to me. It was a very important factor in why Unbound has really started to take off, and it's because of when it started. I don't think it's a topic explored as much as it should be. Now, the sock business was poorly timed. We came in late. Now, we had the idea. It was sort of fell in my lap. The idea came because, hey, look how popular this is. Now, that's a terrible decision to make in terms of like wanting to start a business. Now, that's not to say that we couldn't have made that a wildly successful business. It just would take so much more of whatever, more energy, more money, a better idea, celebrity partners, something. So like it could work. It's just more unlikely, seeing as though the thing is late. Timing is something that I just don't hear enough people talk about, and I really think it should be considered more, because it's like a good idea at the wrong time, it just won't work, right? So it's just about like, is this early? And I feel like I would talk to people about merino wool apparel, and if there are people who would go, on canoe trips a lot, like all of those guys, they're like fishermen and outdoors people, like, oh yeah, I know tons of merino wool, it's the best, and like I know a guy who does Ironmans and stuff, and he travels all over the world doing Ironmans, like, oh yeah, I love merino wool, it's the greatest thing in the world. Ask anyone else, they're like, merino wool, what do you mean? Like scarves, sweaters? Like they don't understand that it could be like a super fine, like really comfortable, soft, light t-shirt. So I'm just thinking, like, I don't want to sell to the people that are like going on canoe trips. So that's not me. Like I would love to go on some canoe trips, but it's just not my lifestyle. And that market is saturated. Anyone that's selling the stuff is already like, you can go on their website. It's positioned as such that it looks like it's for someone going on that canoe trip. I'm just like, I want to position this to people who are like me. They have their own businesses, but they want to work like more remotely. They want to be a little bit more nomadic. They like traveling. When they travel, they want to going to a city, but being able to, focus on the experience of being there, still working. Like I felt like it was for me. I felt like I fit the core customer model. So from a positioning standpoint, and from the fact that people were unaware of merino wool, I'm like, we could teach a lot of people about what this material is. That's the opportunity there. And then doubling down on that, I did feel I fit the mold of the core consumer. So anything in terms of marketing and like positioning, the writing that we do on the website or in our Indiegogo campaign, it's like, I'll make it sound good to me. I'll make it appeal to me. And that made the marketing aspect really simple and fall into place. But yeah, the main thing, I would say the number one thing here that made it work is the fact that we were in early, pitching this to people who were unaware. It was new to them. And we continue to.
That's a really good point. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like I don't hear anyone talk about timing really. So it's an interesting point you bring up. I'm curious, talking about timing. So what do you think, if you were starting this exact business, Unbound Merino, today, do you think that would be more of a challenge? Like, do you think the timing would be wrong now, or do you think there would just be different challenges?
Like if the exact same thing happened, but like the first seed of the idea was like right now?
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance it might be a lot harder. But I'll be honest, I think it's still early, and I think that makes me excited. Like I don't think I could tell from the comments that come into our like Facebook and stuff. It's like, feel like merino wool isn't that warm, and like it's like there's not like a ton of awareness on it.
Yeah. That's cool.
I don't know.
Is it still
I
early?
really don't know. I think it might still be early. There is more aware, like Allbirds, the company Allbirds, the shoe company. They're giving a whole lot of awareness to merino wool in a different way. So I think that maybe we're going to be. We're not quite Allbirds size. We're doing well, not that well. Allbirds is crushing, but I think we're teaching a lot of people still. But yeah, it could be a lot worse if I started today. Hard to tell.
Yeah, yep. It's interesting thought exercise anyway, Because when you kind of distill, when you observe other people's like successful businesses, a lot of the time timing has been a factor. It's obviously not the only factor. There's a lot of things that go into it, but it's an important one to consider, I think. And you're right, people don't talk about it much.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm keen to, you said that you used crowdfunding to raise, basically pay for the initial startup costs of the business, or most of it. So just for the benefit of the listener, can you quickly explain, I guess, why you wanted to do that crowdfunding campaign and what the main benefits are? You kind of already touched on it a little bit, but just to rehash that.
So there's two things here. So one was the finances, right? Because it's going to cost us a certain amount to start this business, and we don't know if it's going to work. So if you can go and get people to pre-order your product, you can start the business on that. You don't have to risk putting in your money on something that you may or may not work. It's like you'll get the money in sales for something that is guaranteed to work, because if you got the money, it's already worked. So it's like it's a no-brainer in that sense. That also means that you're getting that validation of the product market fit. So when we created that crowdfunding campaign, it took us about a year. We were working only on Friday nights, right? And every other week we'd do like the odd like work day. But my partners were like running a full-time job. The other worked with me at Biz Media, so we could devote a bit of time, but we had work to do. But we put our all into it. Like everything that communicated what our positioning was all went into that crowdfunding campaign. So if it didn't work, to me, that would be a sign of there is no product market fit, or we're not the people to have found it or found the hot button. So it was a validation that the way we're positioning this works. And if it works, here's the money to start it. Now, we did 2 crowdfunding campaigns because that was to start the business. But then after that, when we actually started selling on our own e-commerce site and the business started growing, we started selling out of inventory faster than we ever anticipated. Now, we make some stuff here in our hometown, and that's a godsend for us, because it's like we can get stuff done within 10 days, even faster if we really push on it. But when we're dealing with China, it's usually on the fast end, it would be about 3 months. Sometimes it could be up to 5 months. So when you're selling out of stuff and you haven't even ordered it yet, it's a nightmare. So, and then we're thinking about all the money that we've made. So we're making money, but we have to now get larger quantities of inventory. Our business can't sustain the amount of stuff we need to order to get what we need in 5 months, because in 5 months is going to be October, November, which is supposed to be the busiest time of the year. So what are we going to do so that we can have enough inventory to meet the demand if we're running on our own like sales, in our own cash and our own profit? And if it's growing, that's really hard. So there's one obvious option is, well, there's 3 ways that we thought we could do it. One, we get a business loan. So went to the bank and we tried to get a line of credit or a loan, but our business was it a year old or a little over a year? They said, without 2 years of financials, like we'll get you $10,000 if you're lucky, 20, nothing more than that, but we need more. So, okay, well, that's not going to work. Another advantage we had is because this was going really well, we had access to a lot of people who wanted to invest in the business, including some of my friends who've done really well. They're like, I'll invest. It's because they saw it. Like, this is going to grow and this is early. So go access some of that money, except then you had to give up a piece of equity in the company. But what we did was we introduced our hoodie, but we did it as a crowdfunding campaign. So we said, let's just sell our hoodie, but also have bundles with our other product, and let's just sell a bunch of this. Because if we do that, it gives us time to manufacture the stuff that we need, but the people that are ordering here, that's the nature of a crowdfunding campaign, they're okay to wait. Now, you have to deliver it on time, and we were a little late, and it pissed off some people. Like, it wasn't that bad. We were maybe a month late or a month and a half late, but we thought we'd be on time. We were a little late. But these people are willing to wait. So we've set it up so that we'll we'll start the campaign. I forgot what month we even started. I'm terrible with dates, but it was supposed to ship in October, and it was shipping through November and December. And the second crowdfunding campaign was successful because the idea still worked, the product market fit was still there, but we also had a big base of customers who we could market to already through emails, so they were supporting it. So we did more on our second crowdfunding campaign than we did in our first, and that was like a cash injection to our business of almost $400,000. And we didn't need to go get an investor. We didn't need to get a loan at all. So now we've been in business over 2 years, and the bank is calling me and saying, we can give you a line of credit. So these problems are now, because we have the cash, it's weird. When you need the cash, they won't give it to you. When you have it, they'll give you what you need. And we're like that now. But crowdfunding started our business, and crowdfunding also solved our need for cash to fund the growth of our business. So to me, it is the greatest thing ever in every way. Like I couldn't even, like, everyone talks to me about starting a business when, like, if they have ideas, if someone approaches me and wants to sit with me, the first thing I think of is crowdfunding every single time, because you get your money that you need without having to get money from elsewhere or dig into your own savings, and the money comes from people who are interested. And be crowdfunded. I just can't see why you wouldn't even attempt it. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm so grateful to Indiegogo for the support and what they did to help us get started. Like, it's significant. Like, it's a really good thing.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that when you did your first campaign, because there's kind of the two main players, I guess, Indiegogo and Kickstarter, and Kickstarter did have a much larger platform. So I'm curious why you did decide to go with Indiegogo for your first campaign, and what good came out of choosing them over Kickstarter.
Well, it was simple. We were tempted to go with Kickstarter because it was bigger, but because we were like really trying to do everything as perfect as possible, we felt the support from Indiegogo was way better. So I would write to Kickstarter and I just wouldn't hear back. Like, it's kind of like trying to get a hold of Facebook. You know what I mean? Like, good luck. You just can't. They're so big that they don't need to offer that level of support. Indiegogo is a little smaller, and they say second place usually works harder. So, I mean, when we were setting up the campaign, they were on the phone with us, whatever we needed. And one of the guys we're talking with, he happened to be in town for some event in Toronto, like 2 weeks after we started setting up our campaign. And he made it a point to like come meet us in person. Like that level of support was helpful, but also they allowed us they cut a deal. They said, listen, if you can get to 30% of your goal within the first 48 hours, we'll feature you in our newsletter, which is huge for businesses. And it gets a lot of people, the mailing list is huge. A lot of people read it. You'll get a lot of sales from it. So for us, it was a no-brainer. Like, okay, there's free marketing there. We need to get to 30% of our crowdfunding goal, and how will we do it? So we felt like we could control that. So the way we did it was making sure we had a list of friends and family. Those are the first people. The first $10,000 that we made in our crowdfunding campaign was all people I went to high school with, people who are my siblings, cousins, friends of friends, anyone that I could confidently ask, hey, I'm starting this thing. I put a year of my work into it. Do me a favor and buy a t-shirt. It'd be the best price that we could sell it for. It's still an expensive t-shirt. Would you, if you can't, if it's not a good time, there's no worries, but like, it would mean a lot. And I had like, I can't even count how many people that I asked. And I asked them a few months ahead of time. I'll tell this story. I'm going on a little tangent, but this is actually like really, really critical to why the campaign worked. So I want to share it. I really wanted these people to buy our stuff for a couple of reasons. One, we needed them to, but two, I also really believed in the product after we've already developed it over that year, that I was happy to sell it. Like, I was happy. I felt proud of what they would end up getting in their mailbox by supporting it. But we really needed them to do it, and I needed to assure that they would, because we needed to get $10,000 to meet our $30,000 a third of our $30,000 goal within that first 48 hours. So leading up to it, I sent a Facebook message to all these people saying, are you cool to do that? And they all said, yeah, whatever. Some people ignored, right? And then to assure that they did it, what I did right when the campaign launched is we stayed up all night. So I made a video for each person. So it'd be like, if I made one for you, it'd be like, just me. I turn on the camera, the webcam. James, what's going on? Like, it's Dan. I haven't seen you in a while. Remember I told you about that T-shirt I was launching? Well, it's launched, and I really, really need your support. And I fill it with like inside jokes. And me and my business partner, we were just drinking whiskey all night, so we'd get more and more drunk, and they get dumber and funnier. And we made like maybe 100 of these videos, and each one was private, so you couldn't see anyone else's. And then what I'd do is I'd send that person's video to them. So in their Facebook Messenger window, they get this thumbnail video. It said like James.mpg or .youtube or whatever it was called. But it had their name and my face. So it's very intriguing, right? So they're like, oh, is that a video about me? And they don't remember what it is that I asked them a few months earlier to buy a shirt. And what I think that video did, it forced them to not ignore it. Because I remember a guy I know, he started a crowdfunding campaign probably half a year before I did. And I got this message, hey, Dan, hey, dude, or whatever, blah, 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 here's my campaign. And I was in the transition mode. I wasn't paying myself from either company now. I wasn't going to buy anyone's stuff. I just felt like I could ignore that message and never notice. And he didn't. And I just like I didn't want to buy anything at that time. So I ignored it, never heard from him again. It was fine. Moved on. I'm like, I need them to feel like they can't ignore it. So I made these videos, and every single person replied, some people said, hey, listen, it's tough times. I just don't want to be buying anything right now. No problem. But most people bought, and we got that $10,000 so fast. And then we were in the newsletter. So if you look at our sales on Indiegogo, you're going to see like Brian Demsky, it's my brother, and Sandy, that's my business partner's cousin. Like I remember these names coming in. This person's cousin, my brother, hit 10,000. Are you still there?
Yep, I'm still here.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened with my. Sorry, one sec. I lost my video. Can you see me?
I can still hear you. Can't see you. That's all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully
we're back.
Okay. Sorry about that. So, where was I? Oh yeah. So I remember the orders coming in. It was like my cousin, my brother, blah 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 blah, and then we started trending on Indiegogo, and all of a sudden I see like Johannes in Germany. Oh, I don't know who that is, and like orders from the USA, and then orders from China, and all of the, so it was like everyone I know, and then it just became less and less familiar. And then by the time the campaign was done, I mean, now we've sold in almost 100 countries. I think we sold at like 75 countries or something. I don't remember how many countries exactly, but all over the world. It just took a life of its own. But it really all started with just friends and family.
It's a cool story. I like it. And yeah, it sounds like the help that Indiegogo gave you really helped boost things up. So you sort of did that initial up to 10,000 and sort of worked hard, got all your friends and family support. I love that idea with the video, making it personal so they can't ignore it. And then it all started to sort of kick in and get momentum, which is awesome. So what I'm curious, is any major lessons you took from running that first campaign? Because I think you talked about having that that first 10K in the first 48 hours to get that boost. Any other major lessons from that first campaign?
There's a ton. I mean, the whole process was just all-consuming. I think ultimately the approach that we took, which I think really worked, was we tried to make our entire positioning about the benefit to the customer. Like it wasn't about like who we are and what our experience was, and like, you know, we've already we had a little bit about us, but that was really below the fold. We really looked at the whole campaign as like an we called it a millennial infomercial. So it's like, we need to beat the person over the head with why this is a benefit to them. Like, when you travel, you're going to have a better experience, way lighter. You're not going to risk losing baggage. You'll never have to pay for overweight baggage. Like, anything that we focused on was all about how does this benefit the person who's buying it. It's about them. They do not care about me. They do not care about our company. They do not care about our success. They don't care about anything but how does this make their lives better. That was just like a core philosophy for what everything we did in terms of packaging that together. And I think that was a good approach. And in the campaigns I've seen be successful, they really are focused on that, like the benefit to the customer. So that, I think, is another really key takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is your video off? I can't see you anymore. And I feel like when I was looking at you, I felt like I was talking to someone. I'm talking to a circle.
I can still, it looks like my video is still up on my screen. You can't see me?
Whatever. I can't see you, but it's okay. I can deal with it. I'll just look at myself.
Okay. Try and work out what's going on here. But
all good.
Hope it pops back in a sec. But yeah, so one thing I found interesting that I saw you wrote about when after the initial campaign, because that campaign was really successful. You raised about $370,000 US, but you were still working at Biz Media. You still had your other business that you were involved in, and you actually said that you were still worried, even though you raised $370,000. There was obviously a need. People wanted the product, and they're willing to put their money for it. You're wondering, is this an actual business? So I'm curious, could you tell the story of what was the point that you actually knew that Unbound Merino was a real business, that it was going to take off, and that you could go all in and really just get this thing going?
Yeah, I remember when we first were preparing to ship everything. We flew to China. We did inspections ourselves. We're very worried about quality and making sure that the massive amount of money we're about to spend on inventory was going to be for good stuff that would be happily received by the customers. But we knew the whole time, like, we have a jump start here. We don't have a business because we're not taking any revenue now. It's all done. We're trickling in like a little, there's an in-demand portion once your campaign's over, but we weren't selling a lot through that. And people don't really tend to sell a lot once it's in the in-demand phase. So I'm like, we need to have a website, and that website needs to be selling. And if it is, we have a business. But we didn't know if we had a business yet. So we didn't want to launch the website until it was close to shipping the product, because we didn't want to sell too much, and we didn't know how much we should sell or if we could sell anything. And we also really weren't prepared. Also, on top of that, we had thousands of customers from the crowdfunding campaign, and we were running out of a tiny storage locker shipping everything. And we grossly underestimated the amount of effort it is to ship that many orders. Like, you've got to think of, people are ordering 2 t-shirts, 2 pairs of socks, 2 underwear. That's the average order. That was our most common order, the 2, 2, and 2. So it could be a medium black V-neck and a medium gray crew neck shirt, 2 medium boxers, and 1 pair of ankle socks and 1 pair of long socks. And we only had gray at the time. So we have to pick that order. We had a nice packaging, put our little inserts into it, fold it, go in, type all of our stuff, to ship it, print out a shipping label, put it in a so this process took like over 10 minutes to start. I think it was about that for each order to pack it, ship, right? So now multiply it by thousands. And then I don't know why we thought we could do this in like a week or 2. Like, we must have been insane. Like, we're completely nuts. So it took us, so we were day and night shipping all of these orders, and then we go to take coffee shop breaks, and we'd go and set up this Shopify site. Now, I love Shopify. Shopify was the easiest part of starting this whole business. Now, this is our business lives and dies on Shopify. We are a Shopify e-commerce store, but our advantage was we had a lot of assets from our crowdfunding campaign that made it very easy to plug into this campaign. We picked a theme we liked. We picked a theme that would look good with the ad. We hired a guy, but very, very minor. But we had the website up within like a day and a half, less than 2 days, like just like kind of whipped it together. It wasn't like a very, very consuming build. And I remember being at a Starbucks and we're going to make a little fix to something on the site. I don't remember, but I went into the Shopify backend and I looked in orders. And I saw revenue. Like there were sales. And it was already up for a couple of days, but we didn't have an announcement yet. Like we were going to do like, oh, we're officially open our store, like some kind of Facebook post, whatever we were going to do. But there were sales. And I went and I looked and there was a bunch of orders and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, how did they even find our website? And I guess it makes sense. We're shipping a lot of product already. We had thousands of customers, or a couple thousand from Indiegogo. So there's going to be word of mouth and they're Googling for us specifically and they're finding us. But I didn't even consider that. So I thought, let's go to the warehouse. Let's ship these. These guys are waiting already, right? So we shipped out these orders. And then that was like, okay, I think we have a business. But it just, at that point, it was the holiday season. Sales started up. And I felt like it was good. But I'll tell you one thing. From my couple years of experience in the sock business now, people at Christmas time, this is news to me. So I'm a Jewish guy, not very religious, but I grew up Jewish. I didn't have Christmas growing up. My wife is Catholic, so I didn't get Christmas until I started getting serious with my wife, girlfriend at the time. I didn't realize that socks is like a really big deal at Christmas. People love giving and receiving socks. It was like completely news to me. It was very, very cool having a sock business because during this Christmas time, we'd sell so many socks. But another thing I learned is when January rolls around, it's not fun to have a sock business. I think a lot of businesses don't have a lot of fun in January and February because it's like like October, November, December are crazy, but people overspend. People aren't really buying as much stuff. Retail is at the all-time low in those months. We crushed it January. And that was when I realized this is a business. Like what we're doing is working because all the people who received our stuff as gifts, all the people who got our stuff from crowdfunding now have their stuff. So in January and February, we're really good. I think this is working without us doing much of anything else other than what we've already done. Let's take this seriously. And I just left my other businesses. There were some lessons in there. I maybe could have done it in a better way. My business partner in the sock business is not very happy with me. Like all for one day I'm like focused on it, the other day I'm like I'm not, and like I'm not here anymore. So I don't think I did that in the most. I could have done it in a more ceremonious, nice. But I was just like I knew what I needed to do. I knew what I needed to do. I knew I had this thing here that was so authentically me. That's going to make sense, and I knew the path forward, and I could figure it out. I just went all in. I gave my businesses away basically. I didn't sell my shares. I just like I'm all in on this. Good, and it's just been growing steadily. So
that's awesome. Yeah, because you grew extremely quickly. So after that campaign, the initial one, you got to over 7 figures in the first year, which is impressive. And you've been going for about 2.5 years now. So yeah, I guess any major learnings? There's obviously a lot of things you would have learned and some challenges along the way, but any major ones that stand out either in that first year where it was like hyper growth or in just any point in the last 2.5 years of this business, any key takeaways or learnings from it?
It's just, I think all of our year, I feel like everything that I've done over the past 10 years, through my other businesses and my experiences led me to where I am now. To like, I know what my mistakes have been. I still make tons, and I'm still young. I'm going to make a ton of like brutal mistakes, I'm sure. But I think for us, what we're doing well is we make time. So I have two business partners and my best buds. We would make time every 3 months, once a quarter, to break away. We don't go far. We drive out of Toronto about an hour and a half. We go to Niagara on the Lake, which is a quaint little town, great little restaurants and wineries, and we plan for 2 days. And I think it's one of the key things. I mean, it's any business should do it, but I think breaking away, really, really addressing where we want to take the company. So we started very high level. Where do we want to be in 10 years? Let's be like gross in our overestimates of how big this thing could be. Like, let's start there. At least it's a direction. And we sort of like whittle it back. So, okay, if in 10 years we're going to be this massive business, it's huge and ambitious, where would we need to be in 3 years? So we kind of like paint that picture, and they say, okay, if that's where we're going to be in 3 years, where are we in 1 year from now? And then we can that's when it gets real. So our growth needs to be pretty aggressive. We're going to do that. Okay, how? If we want to grow over 100% again this year, what is it going to take? What are the key drivers? So we spend 2 days away from everything, really whittling that down. And then it goes down to the quarter. So like, okay, now we're going to do this quarter. Like, what are it's going to be website stuff. Is it going to be like influencer outreach stuff? But we each take one major thing and a bunch of small things. And we're very, very like religious about that. You know, that's where my religion is. I'm a Jewish boy, but I'm more religious about our quarterly dashboard that we make. So we plan out, and then every week we have a meeting, me and my two partners, where we overlook our progress on what our one rock that we each have for each of the partners, like what's our progress on that. And that helps us learn. So we know like the stuff that works really well, because we're seeing it unfold in real time. We're accountable to each other. Very good at Facebook ads. We're getting really good at retargeting ads through Google AdWords and Facebook. Our emails are getting better. We're building our list. We're focusing like crazy on product quality. So we're bringing in product developers, product designers that worked with like huge brands, like a huge brand here called Joe Fresh and Lululemon. We bring in contractors that work with companies like that to help us figure out how our spec sheets should work, so that we're getting even better at scrutinizing the details of product quality, improving product quality, meeting people at trade shows. Like, we know what's important to us, and we rehash what those things are once a quarter, and we have fun doing it. Like, once we're done, we go and we drink wine and have a great meal and just like try to enjoy the process of being away. The lessons are all in that. We give ourselves time to reflect. We have that quarterly and then the weekly. So that's been a huge advantage for us. And I'm so grateful for my business partners. I just couldn't do it without them. Like, I mean, I think highly of myself. I think I'm capable, but it just wouldn't be the same. I mean, to have two guys that care as much as I do, that when we get to meet up and do something like quarterly planning, like, I would rather do that than almost anything else. Like, I'm with my best buds and we are planning something that we believe in. It's working and we're making it happen. The lessons come every week when we meet up and we see, like, you know, sometimes I'm the worst of us three in terms of like, I'm not getting what I need to get done. But I have to face my buddies who aren't afraid to call me a piece of shit. Like, what are you doing? Like, you said last week you were gonna get this done and you still didn't do it. Like, so I can't, I'm accountable to people who can call me out on my bullshit. And so I do go off track a little bit, but like that lets me bounce right back. And we always know, we don't want to go through a whole quarter like disappointing your best friends and business partners like every week. So usually the thing that you want to get done gets done. So I think that planning is honestly our biggest advantage, and the fact that we're best friends and we love the product and we're the core consumer, like, it all fits into place. But yeah, I think the insights all come in every one of those weekly meetings.
That's great. I think that's definitely important and something that a lot of people struggle with, I guess, like stepping back from the day to day, actually like planning, not being reactive, because it's harder to be proactive and plan and kind of do that deep thinking and get away from it all. So the fact that
Yeah, you know, I was talking with a friend, and he said he's a mentor to mine. He has a much bigger business than I have, and he's really hitting a stride now. Like his business is just growing like crazy, and they make a food product that's distributed like everywhere in Canada and all over the United States. And he's just a planner. And he kind of helps me like figure out how we can like organize our goals. But he said like he talks to people, and he's like the amount of people that don't work against or towards goals in their lives and professionally and personally, it's astounding to him. He's like, and that's kind of true. And then like if you don't have goals, what are you really working towards? Like the goals need to be clear. Now, my personal life goals are not that clear. But I even think like, that's kind of a mistake. Like I should have more. Like I'm trying to get more into shape now because I just want to look. I don't want to get old and get like feel like tired and like have like back problems and stuff, right? So like it's kind of clear. So I have like a thing now where I work out every day, which sounds like overkill because it could be, but the way I decided it's gonna be all or nothing. It's not that I work out like crazy every day. I have rest days in the gym. It's about me, the mindset of I make time no matter what. So yesterday was like, or 2 days ago was a rest day for me. My body was sore from working out. I didn't want to, but I went to the gym. I had a show downloaded on my phone on Netflix. I put it up on the treadmill and I walked a casual walk for 30 minutes on the treadmill. So like a personal goal is that I want to have the discipline to be active every day, and I'm working towards that. And since probably like January 3rd or 4th, I haven't not missed a day. And I missed one day, but if I miss a day, I do 2 the next day, which is really stupid to go to the gym twice. It's a waste of time. It's I have to shower twice. Like I don't like the idea of doing that. Like it seems, but it's like punishment. So the one time I couldn't go, I go twice the next day. So that's a personal goal. But I don't have any other personal goals. But I'm so good at goals in business. But that's why my business is growing. I don't know, everything is fine in my personal life. My wife, great. I have a great dog, working out every day. But like it really, if you don't have clear goals, I don't know how you get through life or for what you're like. It's just kind of like, all right, well, let's just let the day pass until it's time to sleep.
Yeah.
Without goals, you can't win, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you sort of become.
It's very hard in business to have like. Do you know as weird as it sounds? I was watching an NBA game, and these guys are all so focused on getting a championship ring, right? Like that's what any athlete wants. They want the trophy, the finals trophy. And like, what an easy life you have. I mean, as weird as it is, I'm like, that's the easiest thing. Like if you're an athlete, okay, you have to work so much harder than I'm even capable of. You have to be physically gifted and mentally gifted to be an athlete on that level. But like your goal is so like you get the best trainers. It's like, okay, I want to win a championship ring. I wish that in business, like the goal was that simple. Like if I crush it and I want to get the championship ring, there's no championship. Like you don't even know what like you have to define what success is. You have to define what your championship ring is. So that's why these quarterly planning things are so good, because you could define your success for a quarter. So we have down to like the amount of orders we have in a quarter based on reality, the amount of progress we need to make in a bunch of different things, but we'll get them or we won't. It's clear. And that's what that clarity is what we try to achieve with our goal planning, so that when we get to like 10-year goal, that's like winning the championship ring. Like we got to like do 10 years of like doing everything in the right direction, making little mistakes, but keep moving forward, and like kind of like figure out to get to that 10-year mark. That's what's going to be our championship ring.
I love that. And yeah, it's easy if you don't have goals, to just become a drifter and kind of, as you said, you're just wandering through the days, waiting for them to end. And it's easy for one day to become 2 days, to become a week, to become a month. So I love that you really are intentional about that and setting goals, and it really does make a big difference, I feel. So one thing I want to ask you about is, because you actually did some really interesting Reddit posts. One of them was about your experience of basically the last decade, your biggest takeaways from your business life, essentially. And there was a few points that you wrote in there that I was keen to just unpack a little bit because I thought they were really good. And one of them was, you said, sales is the most important word in business. So that's something that I definitely agree with. And I was wondering if you could just unpack that a little bit.
Right. Remember we're talking about like don't focus so much on like all the letterhead and business cards and all that stuff. I remember when we first started Biz Media and we did that GE project, and thinking like, okay, like we need to get more of this because it's great. Like instead of a few $100, we're getting thousands now. I'm spending less time. Like, how do we get more of this? But I didn't know how to get more sales outside of going to the guy who got us GE and saying, "Hey, that was great. Go get us more. We'll do a great job for them too." And I got a book. I went to the bookstore. I went to the business sales section, and I just grabbed like every book that looked really interesting and good about sales. And the best one I ever read was called The Sales Bible by Jeffrey Gitomer. It was unbelievable. It doesn't apply to me at all anymore with this business, but when I was selling our services, it was just like if you were to read one book, it's that. But I felt like, what do I need to know in business if I can't sell? Like, there's nothing. The business doesn't run, right? Like, I don't have any employees when we're starting, so I don't need like leadership isn't an issue. HR isn't a thing. We're so far away from that. Financial planning, it's like, okay, well, let's get more money before we even need to worry about that, right? Like the sales is the thing that gets money in the door, and then you can fuck it up in any other way you want after that. But I always felt like, first things first. First thing, let's get sales in the door. Second would be things like leadership, because we're going to have employees, right? Like, you learn what you need when you need it. And if your business doesn't have sales, then it's not a business. It's just like a hobby or a project, right? So it's the first thing that you just need to be a master of. And I was obsessed. Like, I would go to sales. I loved it. Like, for me, it was just about like learning how to make everything else work. And that was really good. I think I might suck at sales now because I'm so out of the game. But like, when I was into it and I was passionate, it's like, I was studying it. I was just like, it was the most important thing. So like, no matter what your business is, you need sales. In our case now, sales comes different. Sales comes through marketing. So we had to get really good at marketing. That's what we focus all our energy on. But we have sales. Like I'm like, as I'm talking to you right now, I can see the little Shopify thing, like little sales coming in, like, which is beautiful. Cool. This is exactly what I wanted from like having a product e-commerce business. Like, I'm literally selling stuff as we're speaking right now.
That's awesome.
But when I had a video business, I had to go and do the pitches. So there's another one right there. Your business needs sales. Everything else comes after. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. It's so when you say it out like that, it sounds so obvious, but a lot of people seem to forget it, and people will sort of they kind of have put negative connotations on the word sales, but you're absolutely right. It's the most important thing, and sales isn't like some cheap dude in the suit trying to flog off used cars. It's communication, basically, just being able to communicate your perspective and communicate the benefits, like you were talking about before with your video. It's not about you. It's not about
that people are going to buy for themselves as consumers. They're going to buy on behalf of their company. They're going to hire, the person to come in and paint their walls or make their video or do whatever it is that they need to do. why shouldn't it be you? Like you could learn how to make yourself that person, but also build a relationship where you're like having fun with it. Like I would used to, there's little things, you take clients out, to hockey games and stuff, and you can have fun with them. And I would just like, I wasn't trying to like sell them like on stuff. I'm just like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna connect with this person on a human level, and that's sales too. Like I don't need to sell more stuff. They can ask us questions about what we do, and we'll talk about it. But for the most part, I go have a bunch of beers with a guy. We had a client come in from Amsterdam. He's never seen ice hockey, so I got like front row tickets. They're a good client. I got front row. I don't even like watching hockey. But I'm like, he wants to see it. Let's go. We just had beer, just drank like tons of beer, and we're just having the best time. And then I realized he's just a dude, just wanting to have fun. I just wanted to go have a good time. That was good sales because we got a ton of business from them. But it wasn't like I'm doing it to manipulate him. It's like I want the business to do well, but I'm going to enjoy the process. Now, I liked doing sales, and that was advantageous to us to start. If you don't like doing sales and you need to sell, you either need to convince yourself you like it or find someone that does. Because I know a lot of people who they just like hate the idea of it, and it's hard for them to get over it. But it's fun. It could be fun. Like I've just told you, like I did a good job doing sales by going to a hockey game and just drinking beers with a really cool guy who's from Amsterdam, who's telling me all about what life's like there. And like if I go to Amsterdam, I'm going to look him up and try to meet with him because he's just a cool guy, So that's sales too. It's fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And another point you said in that post as well was you're talking about how you were involved with Entrepreneurs Organization and how key it was, or how key it is to join and be involved in organizations that better you. So I was wondering if you could just talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So I was a member of EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, for 6 years up until recently. I'm going to rejoin. I'm not a member right now. It's unbelievable. It's just people. It's a not-for-profit of a member-run organization of people who have their own businesses, and you have a monthly meeting that's mandatory. It's almost like a board of advisors where other people from other businesses, they're all going through similar stuff you are, but in different industries, where you have a fully confidential meeting where you can really like open up about like, this is what's going really bad this month, or I think that this is going great, and you can talk about what's working. But you can use a community of peers to help you figure things out or to give you perspective on something. And there's a quote, I don't know who said it originally. It said, "You're the average of the 5 or 6 people closest to you." That is, I think it's such a huge like core philosophy of how I want to live. Like if you surround yourself with people who are kind of like, they don't give a shit about accomplishing things in life, they don't care about growth. It's like that sets the bar for what matters in your circle. But if you surround yourself by people who are achievers and they're ambitious, when you're not achieving and you're not being ambitious, you're kind of like the lowest performer in the room, and it doesn't feel good. Like you want to hold yourself to a higher standard. So it motivates you. It makes you want to do. But I find there's something more to being around people who are like who are accomplished, who are successful. Like if you surround yourself with people like that, it's not just the setting the bar higher for you. Like if you want to do more and do better for yourself, I find when you listen to people speak, sometimes something clicks. And that was I think the greatest thing of being an EO is I'd go in these forum meetings, and it would be my issue I'm talking about, or someone's talking about one of their issues. And I'm just watching this man or woman in my forum, whoever it would be, talk. And it happened a few times where it's like the way they said that thing just made me think about something entirely differently. And it could be, I don't think enough about the importance of that. And I can't believe how good that gentleman or that woman is at that thing. And I'm an idiot when it comes to that. And then I can go to them after and I can learn more, or I realize like that's actually important, and I don't give it enough importance. But on the flip side of that, what's kind of cool is sometimes I'd hear these people who are like way more successful than me talk about something, and I'm like, he has no idea what he's talking about with this. Like, it's like he doesn't get this thing at all, but I get this. I understand that thing so well. That's happened a few times too. And that's maybe something I could double down on. I can like really, like, that's a natural talent that I might have. I take for granted. Like, this successful guy doesn't have that as in his core tool belt, So I just feel like something magic happens when you're around people. And I think it's the most important thing. So I don't have a lot of friends that are like I don't go and hang out with people because I went to high school with them. Like, let's catch up and have, like, I'm happy to see them if like we're at a wedding and stuff. And I love these guys, it's not a priority for me. Like, I like being around people. Like, I went to a conference once, and the book that they gave you with all the agenda information said, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Like, that's the good way to live. Like, I like being like, I feel empowered when I feel like the dumbest guy in the room, and I don't. And you know what? I've been around these people in my forum group. I had the smallest business in the forum group, and I felt like the dumbest guy, but I didn't like act like I was on that level. I was honest. Like, I feel like I'm the dumbest guy here, and I have no idea. When you guys talk about this, like something that they might be talking about, like I can just listen. I'm like, I'm not even on the level to even engage or even like, and that's refreshing to them. Like, it's like they're like they like my honesty. They want to support me, but they also they know where I'm good, and they know where I'm genuine. So I don't know. It's just good to be around great people, and if you're honest with yourself and you don't try to like showboat and try to pretend you're better than you are. It's like these guys, they just want to see you win, and that's who I try to surround. People who want to see me win. They're winners, and I want to see them win. And it's just, EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, is like you had to have a business that had $1 million in revenue to get in, but there's a accelerator program before for if your business isn't at $1 million in revenue, then and that's like the entry level. So I was just with my other business, I was over $1 million, but just barely. So I was like the smallest guy in the chapter. But going to EOA, which is the accelerator program, into EO, like the amount of value that I got is just unreal. It can't even be quantified. Like, it's like lifelong relationships and mentors and thinking bigger and acting bigger and seeing that it takes time, and being there for other people and it's just great. So I always, before I got involved in that, I was in Toastmasters, which is like a organization about learning to public speak, which I never really do. I don't do like much public speaking, but it was like you prepare speeches and people. So it was just fun to be in a group of people who care a lot about that, and that was the focus, and they help you with that. But having a community that you're involved in of productive people is like super, super key, I find.
I love it. And two things I definitely fully agree with, that you become, or you're the average of the people you spend the most time with, and embrace being the dumbest person in the room, because even though it's the most uncomfortable position, it's when you learn the most. So
it's all uncomfortable if you can admit it, though, right? Like, you don't have to like. It should be more uncomfortable if you're pretending that you're something you're not. Like, if I'm around people and they all have 10 years of experience on me and their businesses are many times larger than mine, and I try to pretend that I'm on their level, and I try to have input on things that I like, they'll sniff the bullshit on me, right? So it's like, okay to be like, it's all uncomfortable. Like, I feel comfortable. Like, I remember doing a whole like everyone contributed to something, and it came around to me. It was kind of just by chance. It was like in a clockwise pattern. Like, this person chimed in, and this person, and I was the last one, and everyone had something to say, and I'm just like, I'm too dumb to listen. I'm too dumb and inexperienced to have anything to contribute to this. That was all I can contribute, and everyone started laughing. And like one guy hugged me. He's like, "You're the best." Like, it's just like it's okay. They don't care. And you know what?
Yeah.
If I pretended, if I had that like 10 minutes to like think of an answer, and I'm a good bullshitter, I think. I could like have contributed and pretended like I have like like they'd sniff the bullshit on me. Like it's okay to just be dumb when you're dumb and double down where you're smart. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's all uncomfortable. Actually,
Yeah.
I felt comfortable being the dumbest.
Interesting. Interesting.
I'm
I
not a
love
dumb
that.
guy. I'm spreading myself. I'm just saying, compared to them in those
I get it.
moments,
I
I'm
get
an
it.
inexperienced and dumb. And I joined EO. I was in my I was like 27, and the average age in the chapter is 45. So it's like,
Wow.
my
Yeah.
what was interesting about me to them is the fact that I'm like fully immersed in the world of digital marketing. That's
Yeah.
just where I think it's natural to me. And I'm not like by any stretch the greatest or at it, but compared to them, I'm pretty good. So
Yeah.
that was my value for business wise to them. And that's what I tried to share. But their value is everything else, goal setting, leadership, finance stuff, uh, endless, like the value that I get from them. But I had my thing.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, sort of coming up on the end of the interview here. I want to be mindful of your time, but just a few quick questions to finish up. What's next for Unbound Merino? You've had about 2.5 years into the business. It's done really well. You're getting sales as we have this interview, and all the notifications are popping up. So yeah, any big plans for 2019 or anything you can share for the business?
Um, we're growing, like our it's just growing month after month after month, and we the the nature of the business model is it doesn't have to get much more complicated. Like we're hiring a few like people, but we're really focusing on product development and innovation. So if right now we're working with people like I told you that worked with very very large brands that are innovative in the space of like textiles and performance fabric. Um, so we can continue not only to improve our product, which is already like awesome, but like what are the little things, the iterations that we can make to just make it like because our black t-shirt is like our bread and butter. We want to have the best black t-shirt that you can buy, that money can buy,
Mm.
period. So like any like little incremental improvements we'll work on, but like our new product line. So we have button-up shirts coming out in a few months. We're doing another sweater. Different styles of socks and under just like we're not going to have too many options because we want to keep it basic and simple, but doubling down on new product development and quality assurance and tightening that up, that is where our business is growing.
Mm.
um, but the business model is simple. It's just
Mm.
about people come and they buy off us and they reorder, so it's about just making sure that the experience is great. They get their package fast. The quality is always consistent. It fits the same way every time, but it's like we improve it, it's like not even noticeable. Like upon wearing,
Mm.
it's just like performance long term. Um, it's just about continuing to roll out until we have the full product line that we envision, which will take us a couple more years. But it's slow. We don't want to do too many. So we have button-ups, sweaters, a couple new t-shirt colors. So this year, it's going to be more of just refining what we're doing, but nothing's going to change that's too drastic.
Yeah. Cool. Just tighten everything up. I love it.
Mm.
So, is there anything I haven't asked you, or anything that you want to make sure that you pass on to the audience before we finish up here?
No, I just, I enjoyed talking to you. I'm impressed with the, I've done a few podcasts and I always have a great conversation, but I'm impressed with, you've really read up. I've never had someone go and dig up stuff on me. I don't, I'm not like a Gary V. I've referenced him twice, but it's like people love him, and they look him up. But I appreciate that you looked into what I've done, and so I can so I can share like what's actually what I do have to offer. And I'm impressed with that. So
Yeah.
thanks for having me and thanks for doing that, man. I had fun
Yeah,
talking to you.
absolutely.
Although I haven't been able to see you in the past half hour. So I'm literally looking at a circle that says JH and trying to pretend it's the person I'm talking to, but it's been fun
Well,
nonetheless.
I appreciate you trying to pretend that, but and yeah, you're absolutely more than welcome, and it was a pleasure researching you because you've got a fascinating story and all the stuff you've done has been awesome, and so it wasn't hard for me to spend a few hours digging up stuff on you. So,
What city?
what's that? Sorry,
What city are you in?
I'm in Melbourne in Australia.
Oh, Melbourne.
Yeah, have you ever
Well,
been?
I'll come see you there one day. My when I was telling the story about my cousins and brothers, I was thinking one of our first sales was my wife's cousin who just moved to Melbourne last week.
Beautiful, awesome.
So
Yeah,
I'm
well,
gonna visit him in a year, and I'll look you up and we'll hang out.
absolutely, we'll go. There's no ice hockey here, but we can go have a beer for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, what's the best way if someone wants to connect with you, Daniel, or if they want to check out Unbound Merino? What's the
Um,
best way?
you could find us, I guess, on Instagram. I'm Dan Demsky, DanDemsky, and Unbound Merino, UNBOUND And yeah, reach out if people ever want to talk. I guess people listening, they're interested in business and stuff. And if I could be of value to anyone, I love chatting. Hit
Great.
me up.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Daniel. And yeah, everyone listening, make sure you go check out Unbound Merino. It's an awesome brand. It speaks to me. It's that whole minimalist kind of how can we make the most out of what we got, the best quality, and go check out. I'm going to link up these Reddit posts you did as well because they were a gold mine in themselves. There was what you learned from crowdfunding, what you learned from your 10 years in business. So I'm going to link them up as well for everyone. Make sure you check that out and go say hi to Daniel and thank him for being on the show. And yeah, Daniel, again, thanks so much for your time. This is an awesome interview. I can't wait to share it with everyone and hope you have a great day.
Hey, thanks so much, man. Take care. We'll talk soon.